people to join, or we're good to go?
So it's 3 p.m. at this time because we're working with time. It's better we get on because some people will be signing out. So it's better we start on time so that we can finish in case because MP Mike Cooper has mentioned that he just flew in from St. Albert to Ottawa and he will be leaving. So it's good we get on, and those that come later can introduce themselves. So it's better we get on with this.
Okay, so while I try to battle with my camera, we would continue, and I'll make myself available. So welcome everyone, and by the agenda, the first thing on the agenda is acknowledgement and silent prayer. Like as Eileen mentioned, my name is Ahmad Sani, and I am the Vice President of the Society, and I'm the facilitator for this session. I'm just a facilitator. So we want to start by acknowledging that we are located on Territory 3's territory and respects the history, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First People of Canada, whose presence continue to enrich our vibrant community. And hopefully we all will build up on this, which is why what the society is all about, and build up more on our vibrant community. With that, I will go on to the prayers. And I would request that we all do a minute silent of just praying for the success of what we're doing. And we go to the next agenda from there. So it's 3:02. Just let us take some few seconds or minutes to pray for the success of this program and to pray that we are able to impact on ourselves and get more information from each other. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. The next thing on the agenda is introduce our elected officers and stakeholders. And I'm going to look. I don't believe I see MC Cooper, but MP Cooper, but we'll go ahead, starting with recognizing Michael Cooper, who is the Member of Parliament representing St. Albert and part of Edmonton. We have Dale Nally, who is the MLA representing St. Albert, part of St. Albert and Parkland, and Mary Renaud, representing St. Albert and Morinville, I believe, if I'm not wrong. And of course, we have our Mayor, Cathy Heron, always supportive and always being with us. And yes, we recognize all the councillors hereby present, starting from Ken, who has been on, and every other person there. I will give the opportunity as we go along for everybody to, when it's time to talk, to present them, to do more introduction for themselves. We also recognize the school board members, and we recognize that Cheryl Dumont, who is the Executive Director of St. Albert Further Ahead, will be joining us. We have the representative of the RCMP, and we also have the Youth Hub with us. I am not sure if I have missed any other person, but as we get into the program proper and we have to do, we will do more introduction. So just to explain that the purpose of this is this is the second time we're doing this, and we always want to engage our community, especially our elected officers, who are always available to talk to us, and we do appreciate that. So the format of this is each of the officials, both the elected and board members and the RCMP and all that, will be given some time slot, and the trustees will be given some time slots to present to us something about their office and their work to the community, and we would give opportunity for questions to be asked at the end of each of the session. And that's so. I would want to invite Ellen to give an overview of our community engagements, the various engagement, because we've been like 3 years now in this community, or going to 3 years, and we've done a lot of things, both post and even during the COVID session, and we're doing more this year, and to also talk about our objectives. And after that, we will go into the session for discussion, and I will delegate that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Matt. Thank you, MP Cooper, MLA Danali, MLA Mary Runo. Thank you, Mayor Kati, the Councillor Ken, and other councillors. Thank you to all the school board. I can see Catholic School Board, Chair Joe Zignol, and Trustee Lydia Human to see some of them, and those from the St. Albert Public School Board, Christy Ross, I can see you, and I can also see our partner, St. Albert Further Education, and Mark Dixon from the Youth Hub, and some staff of the City of St. Albert. We say thank you so very much for coming to engage with us today. So our group, African and African Descendants Friendship Club of St. Albert, started in 2019, and our objective is to project African culture and history to St. Albert residents, and to look for ways to support each other, and also for us to give back. And so this community engagement started last year during the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter demonstration. We as a community said, we are going to use a different approach. We heard from our community members. They said they've had different issues that have been talked about. And while different people believe that demonstrating, carrying placards was their own approach, we as a community believe that it's best if we have issues or challenges, we engage with policymakers, with people that make policies in the different areas that concern our community, and we believe it's a better approach. So that's a brief overview of what our community engagement is. And we believe doing that has made each of the partners and everyone to understand our community better. And it also helps us to function better. And we're so thankful for your support. And we're so thankful that St. Albert is our community and is doing what we're doing to make sure that everyone feels included and part of the community. So I say thank you very much. And we have members of our community and our board members online today. And so we've said anyone that has a question or any challenges, they are here. You are with people that make policies for us. So thank you very much for coming on board, and let's go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And my video is back on. Okay, so we are going to take the next So the format of this discussion is going to last about an hour, 15 minutes with different discussion session on different areas of interest and challenges from our community. We would call on each of the speakers to discuss with us for 10 minutes. And within that 10 minutes, if they have to use it all up, fine. If not, there will always be questions. So at the end of their own session, there will be various questions. Now, the format of the questions could be depending. You could type it into the chat and we will pick it up, or you signify your intention to speak and we will get by raising up your hand. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you would see where you would have to, you can click to raise up your hand. I think that is under the reactions. When you go under the reaction, you will see it there, and then right there you will see, I don't know if you are seeing my screen because I'm not sharing it, but then you will see raise hand. So when you go to the lower part of your screen where you have the mic and the video, on the center, you will see reactions. Click on the reaction and then you will see the raise hand. We'll be watching out for anybody that has something to say after the discussion. So the first person that we have on the agenda is MP Cooper, who is going to talk to us about the responsibility of his office in the community, immigration, settlement funding, anti-racism, anything that is kind of related to the community, particularly us here as a visible minority. And so anything that is related to that, we would give the MP 10 minutes to go ahead. We're ahead of time now. Hopefully we would be able to keep it that way. So I don't know if MP Cooper is here. Is Michael here?
Michael's executive assistant is here, Winnie.
So Winnie,
Hi.
are you representing the MP?
Hi. No, he is signing on. He flew in late and he was just arriving from the airport. He's going to sign on in a few minutes.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
by design, we're supposed to have him at 3:15. So he is not, we can't say he's late.
Okay.
Because it's still 3:12. We've got 3 minutes to have him on. So is he signing on? Oh, there he is.
There he is. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Michael.
Hello. Sorry that I'm late. I just flew in to Ottawa and rushed over to my Parliament Hill office.
Okay, nice to have you, and thanks for always responding to our call to come talk to us. We appreciate you.
Well, happy to join everyone.
Okay, so not to put you on the spot, you were going to be the one that was going to speak next, and you have a 10-minute slot to speak on a brief overview of the responsibility of your office in the community. So,
Well, very good. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And when I was talking to Helen prior to attending here today, she said that for a lot of, especially newcomers from Africa, that there might not be a full awareness about all of the services and supports my office can provide. So I think it's a helpful exercise to help make everyone a little more familiar with what my office can provide you. I, of course, am the Member of Parliament, so I represent the St. Albert riding in the House of Commons. So obviously on issues around legislation and federal policy issues, I always welcome feedback from constituents. So if there is an issue or concern you have with a particular piece of legislation, the direction the country is headed in, any policy issue, you can reach out to me by email or to contact my office to schedule a face-to-face meeting. I'm always do my best to get back to you and to have to see you if you want to chat in person. Although I'm in Ottawa right now, I just came back from the riding. I'll be back in the riding on Friday. So when the House is sitting, I'm back on Fridays for meetings and on the weekend to attend events in the community. But aside from policy and legislative matters, my office can be of assistance to you in a number of other areas. One service that I do provide is as a notary public. So if you need a commissioner of oaths or notary public, you can schedule an appointment with my office, and I can take care of that. Of course, it's free of charge, and so it saves you money instead of having to go to a lawyer or other commissioner of oaths. So that is a service that I find some people aren't aware of and are surprised to learn that my office does provide that. Immigration issues. Immigration is a big one for our office. And on the call this evening is Winnie Bogusoff in my office. She deals with primarily immigration-related issues, and she has a lot of experience in that regard. Additionally, passport renewals, Canada Revenue Agency issues, access to small business supports and programs, employment insurance, Phoenix pay issues if you're a federal government employee, all of those types of things my office can be of assistance to you. So we are there. We're open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. My office is located on the corner of St. Anne Street and Perron, so right in the heart of downtown St. Albert. And we do take walk-in traffic. So if you just happen to be by and you want to stop in, you're always welcome to. So I'll leave it at that for now, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so the floor is open for questions. Yes, and thank you for sharing, Brendan. Thanks for sharing the MP's website, because I think that's very important. The website has been shared is michaelcoopermp.ca. That's where we can find this contact in case anybody needs to reach out. But if there are questions, please, like I said, either you type it or you raise your hand, and then we will get to you. Okay, so I'm sorry, Michael, I missed the first one that you said. I think you were talking about getting the stamp of oath or whatever that thing. What is it called?
A commissioner of oaths or
yes.
notary.
So your office does that. Your office does that.
Yes. So if you need any documents notarized, just call our office, and I'm happy to do it.
That's excellent. That's good to know, because I had to do one and I paid for it.
Right. Well, you don't.
So
obviously, you don't have to. You don't pay when you come to my office. So.
You know, it's a good thing to know that that is a service, and I hope others are paying attention, because that is something that people need from time to time when you have, depending on what you have to do. So it's a good thing. So is there any question from anyone? I mean, there can still be questions coming at the end if there is, if nobody has questions now. Okay, so there is a question. about, are there any policies that you know that's coming up about anti-racism?
I don't, you know.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I believe, well, the federal government has supported anti-racism initiatives. There was funding, I believe, provided for anti-racism support efforts to combat racism in the last federal budget. But as far as any new funding or any new support, that remains to be seen. Of course, we just had an election and Parliament just reconvened last week. So,
okay. Yeah, and I know you support all of this, so it's a good thing to know that we have your support.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other question from anyone for MP Cooper? Okay, we will go on, but Michael, we won't let you go.
I will have to run, but just because I've got quite a bit of work to get caught up with before the House resumes tomorrow morning. But Winnie Bogusoff, as well as Brayton Forget in my office, Winnie in my constituency office, Brayton in my Ottawa office, are on the call. So if a question does arise, they will do their best to answer it. And if they're unable to, they will pass it on to me, and I will get back to whoever asked the question.
Sure. And as usual, we would say we are Oliver Twist. We will come back to you as needed. As you have noticed, there's been a lot of diversity in St. Albert of recent. There's a lot of immigrants in St. Albert now compared to years ago. So we do look forward to trying to get more funding for immigrants, and we will definitely work with you. I know Winnie is here.
Absolutely. And on just in terms of immigration right now, we do have a huge backlog in terms of applications, 1.8 million right now, as well as a significant backlog in terms of citizenship applications. So that is something the federal government, frankly, has dropped the ball on. They need to step up. They need to expedite these applications. People are waiting. Sometimes now, more than for years, really, since COVID, and they just frankly have not done enough. So that is something that we as the official opposition have been calling on the government to fix for some time, and it's imperative that they do that. And speaking locally about the diversity of our community, you're absolutely right. In fact, just on Friday, I joined Cheryl Dumont at the inaugural meeting of the St. Albert Latin Association. Latin, newcomers, sometimes not so newcomers, people who've been in Canada for decades, but come from Latin America, established an association. So I think that's just one example of one group, just like your group, and it's important that we're seeing that kind of outreach and that kind of interconnectedness between people who are new to Canada, people who are been here for a while, to be able to reach out to people who are immigrating to Canada, to provide support, to help them make them feel welcome in our community, because certainly we are enriched as a community from all of the diversity, which, as you noted, is increasing considerably from what St. Albert had been, only 10, 15 years ago even.
True. Thank you, MP Cooper. I see Cheryl Dumont's hands up. Cheryl, you have something to say. Can you go ahead, please?
Okay. Just a quick question for you, Michael. I know that you've been keeping your eye open for funding for the Newcomers Center. The last call that went out for funding, as you know, they excluded St. Albert. So I really appreciate you keep telling people how many new immigrants are settling, have already and will continue to settle in St. Albert and area, because we sure need other people to know that that's what's happening here, so that they don't exclude St. Albert for funding requests like that. Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely, it's an important point.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's a very good point, and that's a good observation. Thanks for all you do. I know you are also working with the Filipinos. You're trying. The Further Ahead is doing a lot. So we'll see how everything works out. Thank you very much, Michael. We know you have to run. But thank you for having us in mind and joining us. And even though you just landed in Ottawa, you still found time to join us. We have your contacts, and Winnie is here with us. So in case we need anything, we would reach out to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Bye. Okay, so that was at the federal level. As we know, our tier system is federal, provincial, and municipality. We've spoken to the man representing us at the federal level. Now we're going to go on to the MLAs, and Delnali, I believe, is here. And
yes, I am. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good. And Dale, I believe you are a minister in the provincial government. Am I right?
That is right. I'm the Associate Minister of Natural Gas and Electricity.
Oh, okay, excellent. And
so I should let you know.
Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to let you know that I was at a conference this weekend. Invest Alberta had a conference with global investors, and so I'm actually just driving back. So that's why my camera's not on. I'm afraid if I turn the camera on, I won't get great reception. But I've just pulled into a rest stop, so I'm taking the call from there.
Thank you for finding time to join us. It's appreciated, and please drive safe. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
Hearing you is good for us, at least as per the situation that we have now. So it's good to have you on. And I also have Maria Renaud with us, and Maria has always been with us and always joining us whenever we have to do something. Thank you for having time for us. We would start with MLA Dale, and we just want you to talk about the responsibility of your office in the community and any other provincial issues or things that you think is relevant to us and we should keep an eye on or we should follow up. And it's interesting because you would be speaking from the government angle, and right. We'll be able to have Maria speak to us from the other side. So we expect to get something vibrant. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. One of the most important things that an MLA does is to help constituents with government departments or agencies that they may be struggling with, and quite often they don't even know what help they need. So when many constituents end up talking to us, they're sort of at the end of the road, and they just need someone that will listen and help them. And I'll give you a couple of examples of some important work that we did. We had a mom, and she brought her 19-year-old daughter into our office, and she was in an abusive relationship, and she needed to get out of that relationship, but the lease was under her name, and we actually brought in legislation that would allow victims of domestic violence to break leases so it doesn't impact their credit rating. But she was completely unaware of this. So we were able to walk them through the steps necessary so that she could leave that abusive relationship and not have it impact to her credit rating. And so, and quite often, like I said, they come into your office and it's the end of they need help. They need someone to listen and someone to help. And so that's one of the most important things we do. We also, like Mr. Cooper, like MP Cooper, we get a lot of immigration questions, which of course, those would be for Mr. Cooper to handle. But what we don't do is we don't just say, call your MP, because we know by the time they're making that call to the MLA, they've probably made several calls already. So what we do is we place the call to Mr. Cooper on their behalf. We walk them through it, and so we get the office started as on that work, and it just helps to shine the light on their particular issue. And we've been able to do some important work in conjunction with Mr. Cooper. So I certainly value that relationship as well. So those are that I would consider the most important work that we do. The next most important thing that we do as an MLA is to listen to constituents and to bring that feedback to caucus. And that's not always easy because, as you know, there could be 10 different perspectives on the same topic. And it's not just your job to represent your views. It's your job to, when you're in caucus, to represent everyone's views. And quite often you're bringing different issues to the table, and so it can be very challenging. But it's an important part of the job is listening to constituents. Also, community engagement. That is, again, extremely important. And it's participating in meetings like this. And I'm sitting at the side of the road now on a rest stop because this is important. And it's important that the local MLA is available. And I'm not just the person you see at the grocery store or in the hockey rink, but I'm the person that joins your meetings when you need some representation. So community engagement is very important to the role. And as you pointed out, I am fortunate. I'm the Associate Minister of Natural Gas and Electricity, and I'm also a member of Treasury Board. And so this is very beneficial to us because, first of all, my file as a associate minister actually has been very successful at creating jobs in hydrogen, in petrochemical, and a lot of those investments have been going to the industrial heartland. In fact, there was 5 hydrogen announcements made in the last 10 months, billion-dollar announcements, and 4 of them were for the industrial heartland. And that will mean our constituents will have jobs, and it's going to help drive our local economy. And so that is, now we're just fortunate that it's the heartland is so close to us. But and then the other thing is being a member of Treasury Board. Quite often, even though when I'm wearing the minister hat, I'm looking at all of Alberta. But when they make committees like Treasury Board, they make sure there's representatives from all across the province. So when I'm sitting on Treasury Board, yes, I've got the Alberta hat on, but I'm also thinking locally as well. And how can I always best represent St. Albert and Morinville and Sturgeon County? And so it's just fortunate that I have that opportunity to offer that representation. And then it's also to, as well, Mr. MP Cooper mentioned that being a notary and a commissioner is something that we do as well. And something that I actually didn't know when I first got elected, I found out after, we can actually officiate weddings. And so I was unaware of that. Because of COVID, I have not had a chance to, but I'm hoping that I will have my chance to officiate a wedding next summer or sooner, hopefully. We also support locally with grants. So one of the questions that Mr. Cooper had was, about what do you do to combat racism? And there's we have multiculturalism, Indigenous, and inclusion grant programs. And these are community organizations that can apply for funding that will support their local initiatives. As an MLA, I can provide a letter of support to that program. And so that would hopefully, help get a little more influence as they're going through the grants. So as an MLA, I can absolutely support local organizations in those types of initiatives. What I would suggest is if anyone here has any questions that are more of a private nature, I'm going to give you the phone number to my office. It's 780-572-6161. Again, 780-572-6161. Please reach out to my office if you have any questions of a more private nature, and we'd certainly be happy to talk to you at the time. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dale. That was good. Maria, I think you are online. If you want to go ahead so that we will take the questions.
Sure.
If you're at the end of your
I will try to be brief so we can take some questions. So my name is Marie Renaud. I'm the MLA for St. Albert. It's a little bit confusing, but St. Albert isn't quite split down the middle. I think it's like a 70-30 split. So I probably represent roughly about 70%. And MLA Nally represents the other little piece of St. Albert, and then Morinville, Bonaccord, Legal. So all of those communities, it's quite a large constituency. So we have, as an MLA, we sort of have two distinct roles. One is very much as a legislator. So our job is to do a number of things. We sit on legislative committees. We obviously engage in debate, bill debate. So all of the legislation that is brought forward by government, that includes reviewing budgets when they're presented. It also includes asking questions, things like that. As the opposition, very much like MP Cooper, so we all have critic roles, and so we are given different portfolios to act as critic, and that is literally our job, is to be critic. So we look for things to criticize. Sometimes we look for things to, we suggest things. That doesn't always go over well, but that is our job, and that's what we do. So my critic roles are for community and social services, which is about in terms of financial size, it's about the 4th largest in the province. It covers things like AISH, income support, disability supports, homeless supports, things like that. The other piece is for francophones. And so my other critic role is for francophone issues. So the other job, so that's the first role. The second role, actually where we spend the most time, is in the constituency. So when we're not in session, we're back in our constituencies 100% of the time. Very much like MLA Nally said, we're also notary publics and commissioner of oaths. So people can make appointments to have documents witnessed or signed at no charge. We also help people, we do a lot of casework. We help people navigate pretty complex provincial systems, whether it's healthcare, WCB, often maintenance enforcement, a lot of things around community and social services, a lot of things around long-term care, a lot of seniors issues. So we're pretty busy doing a lot of casework because, again, you know, as MLA Nally said, some provincial systems are very complex, and often it takes quite a bit of assistance. So for people to know where to call and what to do. And then of course, we're available for community consultation and events. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. And in terms of racism, I think, you know, as an opposition member, one of the things we've been doing is watching what the government is bringing forward. Certainly we suggest our own ideas, but we watch what the government is bringing forward in terms of anti-racism strategy. So they did have an anti-racism council. Took them some time to release their report and recommendations, which they eventually did. There were about 48 recommendations in, I think, I think it was like 8 or 9 different areas, whether it was policing, education, health. So for example, in health, one of the recommendations would have been not to lay off those 11,000 positions that were targeted for layoff, because the feeling was that overwhelmingly those 11,000 positions were occupied by women and women of color. And so that was one of the things that consultation laid out. So our job as opposition is to look at the government's work and to ensure recommendations are being worked on and work is being done. And yeah, that's my role. So happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. That was well said. So in case we have any questions from anyone, you want to type or you want to raise your hand. I'm watching so we'll be able to see if you're raising hand, if there are questions. Okay, I see, is that Tony?
Hi, am I able to ask my question now?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. This is a question wrapped up in a statement for both MLAs, so please bear with me. So eliminating racism through education, starting from grade school to university, was listed in the first federal survey of Black Canadians released earlier this year as being one of the top changes Black Canadians would like to see. With this in mind, and given the breakthrough of the Black Lives Matter movement last year, there is much anticipation from Black Albertans regarding the new draft curriculum. Given these reasonable expectations, I can say I am not alone in feeling utterly disappointed by the draft curriculum for a variety of reasons. I'll highlight 2 of those concerns briefly here. So the first is that it repeats a colonial framing of history. The draft social studies curriculum includes the rich, ancient, and medieval history of people of Asian, European, and Indigenous descent. However, Black people first appear in the draft curriculum as enslaved persons in the 1600s New France. This is a colonial trope which presents Africa and African peoples as having no history or relevance on the world stage until Europeans enslaved them as property. This is a white supremacist narrative that is unfortunately deeply embedded in social studies curriculums around the world. And this is the reason most of us here, including myself, learned nothing about African kingdoms, empires, societies, or cultures prior to the transatlantic slave trade while in school. Recognizing the humanity and history of Black people has always been an inconvenient truth to dominant racist narratives, which have sought to subordinate Black people. My second concern is, or one of my concerns is, it does not define the concepts of race and racism. This is despite the draft being touted as anti-racist. It shies away from calling institutional, political, or governmental actions in the past, and thus the present, as racist. Racism is only passively addressed as something people of color experience, but is not really said to be done by anyone or anything. The only racist organization identified as such is the Ku Klux Klan. While accurate, of course, this sidesteps the major concern of systemic racism. It wasn't overtly white supremacist organizations that banned Black persons from immigrating to Canada in 1911. This was the Canadian federal government. It wasn't the KKK that enforced Jim Crow-like laws across Canada in the 20th century. That was various institutions and government organizations, schools, police forces, hospitals, landlords, etc. Both these two elements of the curriculum are far from being conducive in educating Albertan youth about how to confront.
Tony, if you can go to the question, please.
Sure, yeah.
Because we are out of time already for this session. And in fact, this is a good question that I think the school board should also be included in responding to. So
for sure. So Ahmed, I'm almost done. I'm almost there.
Okay.
Thank you. So both these two elements of the curriculum are far from being conducive in educating Albertan youth about how to confront and address systemic racism and personal prejudice. In fact, they only serve to reinforce the prevalence of these racist ideas. None of these concerns proved to be surprising elements of the draft once it became public knowledge that Chris Champion, who is known for being a denier of the horrors of residential schools and believes systemic racism is conspiracy theory, was a main consultant on the social studies curriculum. So now to my two questions. First for Emily Nally, can you give us an indication or an insight as to whether your government, tasked with drafting the new curriculum, is acting on any of these concerns I've noted or any other concerns expressed by Alberta's various racialized communities? And for Emily Renault, is the opposition party committed to recognizing the concerns of Black Canadians and Black Albertans in the draft curriculum, and how so?
So I'll jump in there because that's the reason that we released it as a draft, so that people could have a look at it and provide feedback. And the minister has been accepting that feedback and is now going through it. So I would hope that you would have provided that feedback on the curriculum, because I know that the minister is going through all of that feedback. So my short answer would be yes. I couldn't tell you where she is on it, but I do know that she's going through all of that feedback. So thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. So absolutely, we are committed to making some changes. I think the commitment that we made is that should we form government in the future, that within the first 100 days that we would scrap this draft and start again, because there are some significant problems. You touched on some of them, but there are more from other communities, whether it's Francophone community, Indigenous communities. But I think, the school boards can certainly speak to that. They've done a great job outlining, they've done a great job actually outlining a number of issues with the curriculum. And so I think to hear from experts is ideal. But yes, we are fully committed to creating something far more inclusive than what's before us right now.
Thank you for answering my question.
Okay, that is great. Thanks. I think it's something that maybe the trustees would also have to talk about in relationship to our local environment here. But that was a very great question, and that was excellent. So thank you to both Dale and Marie for the session and for answering our questions. I'm sure as we go along, when we get to the general questions, there might be opportunity for you to say more. So now we come back home, we come to our base, we come to our community and our mayor, our ever supportive mayor, who has always worked with us since we started and make sure that we are on track and we get all the necessary support that we get. And this is the first session that I'm on that after the election, and congratulations to you and the new council. And we do hope that we would get more from you than what we have got so far. But I want to say, Mayor Kati, it's your turn to give us a brief overview of the council direction in terms of inclusion, employment, business opportunities, etc. I know Ken is also there, or any other councillor, if there's a need to give us to make an input. Over to you, Mayor. Did we lose her? I'm sure I saw her online just now. It does look like we lost her. It looks like Ken, this is going to be something you start until the mayor gets back.
Yeah, her laptop just died. She just texted me. She's trying to log right back on here. Okay. So you can either give her 2 seconds, or there she is.
Okay.
I was just gonna, Ahmad, I was just gonna tap dance and sing, and for that kind of time frame.
And every time I log in, I have to rename myself because it always comes up as my daughter. So thank you, Ken. It was perfect timing. I seriously turned on my camera and I get this thing. Oh, your battery's low and it's dead. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for sparking a conversation in our community. Probably something that we should do more of as a municipality. And so I've jotted down some notes because I didn't really know what you guys were looking for, because the conversation about community can be so big and so broad and all encompassing. And I wasn't really focusing on just the diversity and the immigration issues that a municipality has, or our community has. I was focusing on a lot of things. So when I was jotting down some notes, I wanted to first start with saying, I don't think residents of St. Albert realize how lucky they are that when we have an event like this, you get your MP, both MLAs, your mayor, and Ken. Ken goes everything. Lots of municipalities don't have that kind of support. And as Michael mentioned on Friday, there was the new Latino cultural group that we went to celebrate their first meeting. And again, you had your MP and your MLA and your mayor and Ken there. So yeah, I think that's just something that really shows a commitment to community from your elected officials. So when I was thinking about what to talk about the different levels of government, I feel like I'm teaching a class right now, but they do have their own responsibilities. But what happens with us, what Ken and I are always struggling with, is if it's not dealt with somewhere else, it falls in our lap. Whether it's our responsibility or not, the rubber hits the road when it comes to your locally elected officials. And conversion therapy is an example I can give right now. So that is actually going through the federal legislation right now, but we couldn't wait. As a municipality, we were not pleased with the possibility that this kind of antiquated practice could be harming our LGBTQ kids in community. So we came up with our own bylaw. So when it's not dealt with somewhere else, your local government is willing to step in, hopefully willing to step in and solve those issues. So we consider ourselves a welcome and inclusive community. That's the term that we use as a community. We have some great videos online, and I could probably put some links to them in the chat later, but there's some just quick little videos that then it starts with me. So what can we do as an individual to make our community better? And I honestly feel that's the best place to start. Quite often, if you have it from the top down through bylaw and policies, it's not as effective as when you have support from your community. And your group is a perfect example. Starts from the ground up, just a group of people have a common interest. They want to do something for their community. And your mission talks about education and advancing the culture, but it also talks about giving back to your community. It's right in your mission statement that you give back. And so there's a lot that we need to take responsibility as our own self when it comes to community building. You know, when you're going for a walk, are you smiling at your neighbors? Are you engaging in conversations? And those kind of things are our responsibility. And I think that's probably the best place for it. But we as a city have signed on in 2008 to be part of a coalition of welcome, like it's called the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. And it's a network of like-minded municipalities, and we share ideas on how to create policy and programs to make people feel not just welcome, but also respected, and they need to feel included and valued as members of our community. So there's a lot of initiatives that we have that fall under there. I know we're going to get to the RCMP later on in the program, and they're going to be hopefully talking about their new diversity committee. I think those kind of things are strong that we need to see in St. Albert. You know, when it comes to community, it's kind of the way you design a city. And so if you can have a corner store that is within walking distance, then you have people out on the sidewalks with their dogs and their kids and their strollers, and they're meeting each other and they're speaking to each other. But if you have and St. Albert's actually not very, we're getting better, but we're not the best. Every grocery store in St. Albert, you pretty much have to get into your car and go to St. Albert Trail, and it's not the best way to build a community, but we're starting to recognize better ways to build community, and that has to do with just having spaces for people to gather, those kind of things. We actually also have a declaration. I want to read it. I actually pulled it up. It's called the Diversity and Inclusion Declaration. If we have time, I'll just quickly read it. It says, the First Nations and Métis peoples refer to the valley where St. Albert sits as the Pehonan, meaning a gathering place. The city of St. Albert embraces diversity and is proud to be an inclusive and accessible gathering place for people. As a city, we will work hard so that all residents and visitors are valued and included. We will do our best to make sure that the decisions we make are in the best interest of everyone. We want everyone to know that they are welcome in St. Albert. It's okay to be yourself. We believe in our city. We believe our city is a better place when we use everyday opportunities to be welcoming and inclusive. Be curious, be kind. We all need to know where we belong. So I've always just really liked that statement that we proudly show on many of our municipal buildings. I think many of you know some of the things we do to support, and it goes beyond just showing up at your events. We have grant programs that I know you've been successful in achieving for February when you do Taste of Africa, and I think it's the community events grant. Is that right, Ken? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, he's nodding. Community events grant for sure. We do a lot to support our Indigenous community here in St. Albert, to recognize that the land that we're sitting on, that we, as I'm a settler, and many of you were not born here. So, we need to recognize that they have an important place in St. Albert. Yeah, I think really it just comes to being able to assist people. Is that Cheryl DeMont's helping me out there? It's to be able to assist people when they have an idea to make it come to fruition, and making sure that those kind of things are valued. And I'm probably better to just take questions, and I know Ken's here to help answer as well. So why don't we open it up to questions, and we can get a good conversation going.
Thank you, Mayor. Always nice to have you. And so if we have any question, please either you type it on the chat or you raise your hand and I will call you. Although we do have questions at the end, but just related to this, if there's anyone that has any specific questions.
And I'm willing to marry anyone too. I was heard that. If anyone ever wants me to marry them, I would love that.
How do you mean, Mayor?
You may want to rephrase that, Mayor, to
that's what I was
perform the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was
Hands
thinking
up.
the same.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I would like to ask. I think what you said about
building community relationship begins with yourself. And I do absolutely agree. One of the things that I really enjoyed moving into my area here is the block party. And we only had that once, and I've lived in this area for a long time, and maybe I should take more responsibility. But I think that's a really awesome opportunity, because then, you know, the people that live next door to you, you kind of get to know who's who on that friendly basis. So I don't know if there's plans to do more of that, or who sponsors that or what, but I think that's an awesome way to be more neighborly and to feel safe too.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think in 2017, which was Canada's 150th birthday, we became the block party capital of Canada. Just because we had so many block parties that year. Years ago, long before I was even elected, I was sitting on a committee called the Community Service Advisory Committee, and Ken was the chair. And there was a spin-off group that we called ourselves the Vandalism Task Force. And there was lots of conversations in that task force about how to curb the vandalism that the city was seeing. And, you know, there was talks about curfew for the youth and a bunch of very punitive measures. But I got to sit on the subcommittee about block parties. And the conversation was, if you get a block party happening in your area, then you get to know your neighbors quite a bit better. And then once you know your neighbors, they will look out for you. Their kids are less likely to egg your house. You exchange phone numbers, and if your garage door is left open, then they'll call you and say, shut it. So, but we have a great, I can't actually finish talking to you all today without giving a huge kudos to the staff at the City of St. Albert. We have amazing staff that love this community as much as we all do, and they will bend over backwards to make sure that your initiative can come to fruition. So we have a block party page on our website, and we have what we call the Neighborhood Connectors group that a girl by the name of Angie Dietrich runs. I think it's still Angie, and she has sessions, and they'll talk about how to create a free little library in front of your house, or how to do a block party. So we have the resources at the city, and that is really honestly that grassroots community building that I mentioned earlier. So thanks for reminding me about the community connections. There's also a little program that you can actually nominate your neighbor as a good neighbor. It's a quick little form you fill out on our website, and the mayor will write you a letter and put it in a little frame for you. And it's just recognizing that some people in our community are really helping out each other, and they deserve to be recognized.
Thank you for answering that. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit, I'm also a neighborhood connector with Angie Dedrick's team, and I've organized a block party for the past 5 years, so I can actually help anyone that wants to organize a block party on their street to fill out the forms and whatever you need.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. That would end that session in the absence of any question, but Mayor, I'm sure at the end of the day, we'll still have more questions for you.
Yep, I'll be around for the rest of the session, the rest of the time.
Yeah, I probably can too. So because, so now we move on to a group of people that are also elected. And by the way, congratulations to all the school board members for your election into the school trustees, board of trustees for schools. And we know that there's Catholic and there is public, and we recognize everybody. I think I remember Joe from the last time, and a couple of early members telling too. I remember a couple of people from the last time, and it's always interesting anytime we have to talk to the school board. And the issues are always about bullying, anti-racism policy. How do we get Black History Month support? By the way, the municipal, under the leadership of the mayor, has been very involved in the Black History Month. They declare the month of February every year. there's always a declaration. I think this is the second year that it was done. And we're looking that there's a need to also bring the Black Month history activities into our schools and all that. So we would open the floor to all of you to maybe if each one, somebody from the public school and somebody from the Catholic school board, and then we go from there, and we can talk about general things as necessary. So the floor is yours. I don't know, Joe, you want to go ahead?
I was just going to say, I was going to offer Board Chair Kim Armstrong the opportunity to go first, but you know, I can go first.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
Please, Joe, after you.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Our office as elected trustees is really one of governance. The main responsibility of trustees is to be stewards of the operational budget, which is mainly provincially funded. The real full-time work for us is advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. And I say that 3 times because we advocate with all 3 levels of government that are also represented here today, particularly, I mean, in our community, the municipal government, as an area grows out, I think the best example lately was Jensen Lakes, where the neighborhood started development and 2 school sites were done there, and both the public and the Catholic school division have new schools there. So it is our job to advocate with mayor and council on school sites, as well as another topic that frequently comes up is traffic concerns. If there are speeders in and around the school zones, we'll work through the city with the RCMP to put the kibosh on that. It's all about safety for the kids. Of course, a lot of advocacy work with the province, funding as the main funder of school divisions. There's never enough money to do all of the things you want to do. We've been doing a lot of advocacy in the last year on the draft curriculum that was released, and I know St. Albert Public and Greater St. Albert Catholic both made great submissions to the minister on our thoughts on the draft curriculum. And I did manage to speak to the minister last weekend at or 2 weekends ago, I guess, at one of the provincial conferences. And she promised me that she's actually reading all of this submission. So that's encouraging. We also deal with them on transportation. On the federal level, we have FNMI, which is First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Last year, the federal government also announced some COVID funding for school divisions, and that came directly to the school divisions. And of course, we would advocate with the other federal departments as necessary. For us at Greater St. Albert Catholic, we have a very active Diversity, Equity, Human Rights Committee. And they provide the resources to our staff, to our teachers. We really need to get this group connected with that group, for sure. Our board works with Dr. Farha Sharif on anti-racism. As Catholics, we're called to be anti-racist by our faith. I think to describe us, I would say we are radically inclusive. Bullying, we have administrative procedures in place. There's 0 tolerance for bullying in our schools, and it's addressed right away, on site. If it has to come to the board, it'll come to the board. And our administrative procedures are reviewed regularly. And with that, I'll hand it over to Kim.
Thanks, Joe. I just want to take a moment, if I may, Mr. Sunny, to introduce my fellow trustees who are here today. Vice Chair Stanley Haroon and newly elected to school trusteeship is Trustee Lavelle Krause, Trustee John Allen, and Trustee Christy Rouse. And I want to say that as a board, we are grateful for the grassroots engagement that happens in St. Albert. One of the roles, Joe, you did such a good job of explaining a lot of really important work that we do, and implicit in what you said, I think, was not only providing the advocacy, but oversight of what's happening in our local community, but also in communicating assurance to our communities through reports, through stakeholder engagement and involvement in planning. So I just wanted to add that little broader piece. The other thing, you know, when I was looking at the short agendas that you set out, is I want to just say that I have been on the board I was on the board in '95 for 3 years and came back 8 years ago. And there has been an exceeding amount of attention paid to ensuring that we have policies that are belief statements that speak to being welcoming, caring, respectful, safe learning and working environments. We also have narrowed that to a little stronger statement of believing in our discrimination and harassment policy, believing that all individuals have a right to a safe and caring school environment that is free from discrimination and harassment. And I think that we would, you know, and in a moment, perhaps the other trustees can speak, but I think that that gives us a really strong framework or structure to begin. Bullying is a constant, and I have a firm belief that until the leadership of the governments higher than us stop banging, we will see bullying because we're modeling it as adults. But we are approaching bullying from a perspective that everyone is hurt through bullying, and that bullies are welcomed into the process of restitution and reconciliation and using the education. Now, that's just a general statement. We do know that starting last, our schools, starting with the principal and then to the administration, they negotiate those day-to-day issues with respect to racism and discrimination. While we strive for inclusion and welcoming environments, we realize that that doesn't always happen because we can call the overt behavior, but we are learning as a division that there is structural racism and bias that some individuals maybe, but that we need to begin to recognize and make changes systemically. So we as a division began that work last year. When we began our work on truth and reconciliation, it was a very community-based, it wasn't board-led. There were stakeholders and community members who were saying, yeah, you know what? This is work we need to do. And so the work has been being done for the last 7 or 8 years, starting in the classroom. Now, I firmly believe that there is work starting in the classroom with individuals and teachers who are enlightened and have access to to truth and information, and are putting that into our classes. Last year, I went to a couple of school councils, and there were teachers who made presentations to the school councils about what was happening in Black History Month. So I know that there are things happening. What I know also is that we are working to come to knowledge and understanding about what it is that we need to do to make real change with respect to harassment and discrimination policies and inclusive policies. So last year we began working with our senior administration and the school administration, and also the board had a session on systemic racism and discrimination with the now mayor in Edmonton, and also another colleague of his, and that work has just begun. We know, also, we know that there are things that we can do in community, and physical isolation has been really difficult on some of this work, and I just want to thank you for making sure these things happen. There are some of us who met with, we were able to meet with, no, I'm not even going to go there. The other thing I was going to say is that there are a couple of things that are actually happening in schools with respect to settlement type issues. We have been partnering with St. Albert Further Education, and just many thanks for the legacy left to the St. Albert Public School Board by Cheryl Dumont. But our schools are reaching out to those that have families with English language translation issues. Schools are looking to Further Ed for the supports that they have been developing. I also know that there are things that are happening at the schools, at the teacher level and at the school level with respect to racism and learning about systemic and unconscious bias. And what I really want to acknowledge is that there are 4 other trustees on this call from St. Albert Public who could very easily speak more accurately or perhaps more specifically about certain things. But I believe that our board is really committed to this work and knows that that we are in very beginning stages, and that we will be looking for opportunities also. I don't know how much time, but I just wanted to say that perhaps Trustee Haroon, Vice Chair, might have some words to add.
Sure. I can give a couple of minutes to him because we want to take questions, and we're falling behind in our agenda. But go ahead, Trustee Haroon.
Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you very much for inviting all of us to that very important forum. I'd just like to compliment what Trustee Armstrong has said by saying that we embarked on that training program with Mayor Sohi of Edmonton and with another facilitator to learn more about that very issue of racism as it relates to all minorities. And we have spent about 8 hours during the last session. Now we have 3 lovely new trustees that are very committed to that issue and are very anxious to learn more about it. So we are discussing actually this week to extend that training to our new trustees. The objective here is to come up with a systemic racism policy, because when you have a policy, you can mandate programs to impact bullying, to impact other forms of harassment, and to impact more respect within our school systems. And having listened to Tony, especially, I was very impressed with his presentation. And it is very true. We have to start at K to 12 education system. We have to break the cycle of racism. Racism doesn't happen by itself. It's parents, relatives, peers that impact our kids. If we are able to talk to our kids at a very early age, to let them know the negative impact of racism on other human beings like themselves, they will become more respectful and they will become more supportive of any other human being, regardless of what they look like, regardless of where they've come from. We have to inject that respect and appreciation in them. I'll give you a quick example related to our indigenous population. We have a reading week, and during that reading week, some of us trustees read to kids in schools. And I read to a grade 4 students' classroom. And what I read were 2 books related to racism of indigenous people and of Black people. Following that presentation, we opened the floor for discussion. And I was so impressed with the amount of insight, with the amount of understanding that those kids have. So I'm very optimistic that when we finish our training as a group of trustees, when we begin the process of making policies to deal with those issues, that things would even improve further. We're not starting from scratch. As Trustee Armstrong said, we have a history of dealing with those issues in a positive way and are embedded in some of our policies, but we don't have a standalone policy that will deal very effectively with that issue. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Because of time, I would go straight to the question that I have on the chat. And even though it's addressed to the person asking the question is asking about the Catholic school system, it's something that should be answered by both parties. Is what is the requirements of vaccination for 5 to 11-year-olds? I mean, we all know what is going on right now and all that. Is there anything to say on that question? Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, we can really pass the buck on this one because this is provincially mandated. Both the premier and the minister came out and categorically stated that you cannot deny public education, publicly funded education to a student because he has not been vaccinated. So no school board in the province would be able to mandate mandatory vaccinations. It would, I guess, you would hope that people would do what is right, but everybody has different opinions on vaccinations and what is right. So we'll follow along the provincial guidelines on that. And if I may, I totally, thanks Kim for showing me up, but I forgot to send a shout out to Trustee Lydia Yeomans, who joined us, a newly elected trustee after a long, I don't want to say too long, but after a very long and successful career, retired several years ago from Greater St. Albert Catholic Schools as an educator, one of the best. I know that as a fact because she taught both of my sons and decided to put her name in the ring and was successful in the election. And we are so pleased to have her join our board. Lydia Yeomans.
Thank you. And thank you to, and welcome to all the new members. And we look forward to working more with you as we have. So I have one last question, and Trustee Stanley, this.
Can I just add to Joe's and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but there will always be families who the current situation doesn't work for. And through this, whichever side of the decision about masking or vaxxing, and that we've been working, that our administration, our superintendent specifically, has been working very closely with families to ensure that families and students can feel safe at school. So I just wanted to say that that will be ongoing as we, who knows what we do, but as things maybe return to normal or not. So I just wanted to say that we are small enough divisions that we know, that our administration knows if there's a specific family that's in need because the situation isn't working. So I just wanted to say that because that's one of the beautiful things about St. Albert.
If I can add to that too, Kim, there's situations where we have families, for instance, who cannot take the vaccination for medical reasons. And so we have, and some people have chosen for the safety of their children to take their children and educate them at home through homeschooling. And so we have supports in place for those. If you want to homeschool your children during this until you feel confident in that it's safe enough to send your children back to school publicly, there are supports. There's some online supports for families that want to do that. And yes, we're going to continue the masking, the protocols that are in place, the hand sanitizing, and the extra deep cleaning. That's going to continue. A new variant announced this past week. Lord knows how long we're going to be in this. So we do what we have to do.
Okay. Okay. So we're really running out of time. And so Trustee Stanley, do you have a time frame for this policy that you're talking about? Is there a time frame for it?
I'm sorry, Ahmed, could you repeat that, please?
So there's a question. You did talk about that a policy is being put together.
Yeah.
Right. So the question is there a time frame for this policy to be ready, to be out?
What we're doing, Ahmed, is to basically learn more about that issue as the board. As I said, we have 3 new trustees that are eager to learn more about that very issue. And we want to be very contemplative in what we do, because we do have some anti-racism statements in some of our policies, but we don't really have a standalone one. We need a standalone policy that can deal with the nitty-gritty of discrimination, that can deal with not just kids, but also staff. We have people who might not feel that they are discriminating, but in actual fact, they are. We have to look at our hiring plans, our hiring policies. When we hire staff, if we have minority and non-minority, do we unconsciously hire the non-minority without even knowing that we are in fact discriminating? And on it goes. We have to be really contemplative. I don't want to rush it myself. And it's going to take time, but I would say hopefully within a year, that's my own prediction, we will have something in place. And what we do with policy, Ahmed, just to be clear, we do not do the policy on our own as a board only, but we send it to all the stakeholders. So you will be getting that policy to look at it and give us your feedback. Parents will do that, teachers will do that, kids will do that. And once we have all the stakeholders' feedback coming in, then we form our policy. So rest assured that you will be an integral part of that policy.
Thank you very much. And I have to move on because we've really taken a lot of time. But, and I see that Joe has responded, and Trustee, I missed it. Yeah, there was another, Trustee Lydia has also responded, and that is in respect of the Black History Month that we do. We want to partner with the school board for coming years. We want to come into the schools and talk to the kids. I was talking to a teacher in Sherwood Park about some Black things and African history. She went back to her class and shared it and said, you know what? I need you guys to come talk to me. But that's in Sherwood Park. It was just a discussion with someone that I met. So there's a need to get us into the schools. We would work with these trustees, both on the Catholic side and the public side, and see how we can bring this program, particularly during the Black History Month, and celebrate it with the kids so that they know more of our history, and they would be able to appreciate, and we would integrate more. Yes, Joe, sorry.
Just wanted to ask Helen. Helen, will there be dancing?
Okay, so thank you very much to the school board. Cheryl, I do see your hands up, but I know that it's related to education. And since we do have you marked down to talk to us about the further ed, I would want to combine that time for you because we're running out of time. I see, absolutely. I recognize you're raising your hands, but because of the time, I would. So thank you very much to all the school board members, trustees, members, and thank you for answering our call to come talk to us and relating with us. We will work more with you as we work towards the objective of integrating and giving back to our community. And I wish you success in your tenure. Thank you. So we go on to the RCMP. I think we have Constable Ryan Komnick online. Komnick, if I'm pronouncing that right, please correct me.
Yes.
Okay.
That's very close.
Okay. All right. So I would call you to please give us some information about the RCMP, particularly as you know, there's all kinds of discussion about profiling. I know one of our members is on the policing community policing committee, because you reached out to us when this was happening, and we have been doing all kinds of things with you. So if you want to go ahead and spend some time to enlighten us about what the RCMP is and whether we need to be scared. By the way, it's interesting that I'm facing a policeman, because back home we're scared of policemen. So just so you know.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Ahmad, and yeah, for those who I have not met yet, my name is Ryan Komnick. I'm the detachment commander here at St. Albert, and thank you so much for the invitation as a guest this evening. As you're running out of time, I'm just going to try and stick to some sort of higher level overviews of the RCMP and the detachment and what we offer in terms of services. So we are the police of jurisdiction here in the city of St. Albert. My department is comprised of 70 officers. I have a general duty side, and I have a operational support side. So I have 40 officers that you will see in the community. They are in uniform. They regularly patrol, and they're all very approachable as well. So make sure you're taking the opportunity to try and meet with some of those officers. On the operational support side, I have those are the officers that are less obvious in the community. Many of them are plainclothes officers. So I have specialized units. I have a crime reduction unit. They focus on crime reduction initiatives. I have a drug enforcement unit. So they obviously work on investigations involving drug trafficking and drug production, etc. I also have a community policing victim services unit. So they're very involved with the schools, very involved with youth. You'll see them out and about, certainly in the summer months on the golf carts and on their bicycles. They try and be as visible as possible. They love the community block party events. They try and make an appearance to those, farmers market, etc. I also have a general investigation section. So for crimes that of complexity, I would typically, that would fit under their mandate. So serious persons crimes, sexual assaults, aggravated assaults, assaults causing bodily harm. Some of the more complex domestic violence investigations, they will also be responsible for those. And then last but not least, I have a traffic services section. So obviously their mandate is to be out in the community, making sure our roads and streets are safe. And obviously enforcement education is a big part of what they do. So that's just a quick overview of the operational side of the detachment. I have a very active victim services unit, and they're a very, very key component to our operation. They support victims of crime. And when I say victims of crime, that context is quite broad. So it could be anything from, your vehicle was broken into, you had some items stolen out of your vehicle, all the way to more serious crimes, persons crimes. They assist us with next of kin notifications if there's been a death in the family. So they really do a lot of good work for us. We really depend on them heavily. They have a lot of volunteers, advocates that volunteer on call to help support our officers again in supporting victims. And in terms of administrative support out of the RCMP detachment here in St. Albert, we assist, and certainly for the African and African Descendants Friendship Society, we do offer criminal records. We do fingerprinting for immigration and passport services. So for newcomers, for refugees, those that are coming to Canada for on a work visa, for instance, quite often you'll be required to get those services from the local police, and we do offer those services Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. So that's just kind of a 20,000 foot overview of the detachment itself. As I said, I'm the detachment commander, so I'm trying to stay as engaged with the community as I can. As it's been touched on through several guests on this call, engagement is really a critical part of what we do, and making sure that we're reaching all of the diverse communities, vulnerable communities in the city. It is a very, very important part of what we do. And as that, I did, and Mayor Heron touched on it earlier, but I have recently stood up a community diversity advisory committee, and the representative from the society is Denise Watson. So she's our liaison, and it's just making sure that we've got some representation, people that can talk to me about policing services, people that we can have that that open, honest dialogue around what's working, perhaps maybe what isn't working, what can be done better. If there's people that feel that they're left out or that aren't being treated fairly, these are all important issues for me as a detachment commander. So this committee is, as I believe, a step in that right direction to make sure that we're achieving equity, diversity, and inclusion in the community. And we're talking about some very new but very important topics nonetheless. We're talking about the introduction and use of gender pronouns. We talk about all the Afghanistan refugees that are expected to be landing in the Edmonton area here over the next few months. I believe it's hundreds of people. So the city of St. Albert is no different. You know, as a community, we need to have plans in place to accept these people, make sure they're receiving the proper support. So again, the diversity advisory committee allows me to stay connected with the various demographics here in the city of St. Albert. So the policing committee is I'll just touch on that real quickly. I think I still got a couple minutes. The policing committee is comprised of community members, also representations from elected or from city council, and we also have a public complaints director. So again, that is just another outlet for the community to reach out to myself to say, hey, you know, we have some questions, some concerns about, you know, maybe perhaps an interaction with an officer, or maybe they just have questions or concerns about an investigation, or you know, what constitutes a crime versus, you know, maybe something that would be more appropriately dealt, you know, as a civil matter. So the policing committee is a great partner for me. They have their own outlets as well that they can communicate to the citizens of the community. So they have through the St. Albert website, they have Cultivate the Conversation. So if there's any policing concerns, issues, questions, those can be directed through there. And then that information comes back to me, and then we can have that fulsome discussion with the policing committee and come up with a plan. And just for the sake of any newcomers on this meeting that aren't familiar with the RCMP annual performance program, we have 3 priorities. One is domestic violence and assaults. The other is mental health and vulnerable communities. And lastly is crime reduction. So I work with the policing committee to set up those priorities. We build initiatives and measures, and we meet regularly, typically every month. We discuss progress. We discuss what's, again, you know, how are we doing? Are we meeting those expectations of the community? So they are a very key part of my my department and how we're servicing the community. There was also on the agenda that talked about youth education. So I think I'm just going to skip that part, and I'll maybe open it up to questions and answers from the group. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was very good. Excellent. So any questions from anybody? Like I said, you can chat. You can put it in the chat, or you just raise your hand. Before I take on the question, I want to ask that maybe we can extend this by 10 to 15 minutes because of we're running out of time, and we have 2 more speakers before we go to general questions. So is there any question for the RCMP specific, or we move on? Okay, I see a hand up. Sorry, I'm trying to see.
Yeah, Cabello.
Cabello, I see Cabello, your hand is up. Can you go ahead with your question, please?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for this wonderful weekend. Wonderful meeting on a weekend. The question that I have is, I read, I think a few weeks ago, about the RCMP, especially when it comes to hiring, and there was a publication that stated that you know, they were trying to get people from visible minority on board, and because of some of the questions during the intake and the entry exam, something was going to be reviewed and revisited to include other, because a lot of people in the Black community are not familiar with the questioning and the style of questions that are used during the intake. Is it something that is already been implemented, or it's just something that was being spoken about on policy structure? I don't know if you are aware of what I'm talking about.
No, not specifically, but a great question nonetheless, and one that I'd be happy to take to our recruiting unit at our division level to try and get an answer back to you through the society if that would be satisfactory.
Sure. We'll be looking forward to it. I think that's the other thing we can take if there are
Thank you
other
very
questions.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good question. That was a good question because it will help our people to get in there. Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Okay, we will move on. Thank you very much, Constable Ryan. That was informative. And I do know that we can always reach to you to give anytime we want to come to you. And thanks for engaging with the community. That's a very good one. This is probably our second or third program that you are having an input into, and thank you for being supportive. Okay, so with that said, I would go on to the St. Albert Further Education. Sometimes I think this name doesn't do justice to the amount of work that Cheryl and her team does, because what they do, even though it's under further education, but they do a lot more than that. They try to get the community members to upscale their skills and learn new things, and also help newcomers to settle in and provide guidance for them. But without much ado, I would call on Sherry Dumont, the Executive Director of the St. Albert Further Education, to spend some minutes talking to us.
And thank you to you and your committee for inviting further education to this important meeting. We really appreciate it. Yes, I'll just give you a quick overview. St. Albert Further Education has been in the community for 47 years. And during that time, we have done a lot of education. About 30 years ago, we started to do a lot of education regarding newcomers learning English. So it is really through the work that we have done teaching individuals English that a little more than a year ago, we decided that we would move ahead with a newcomers connection program with the support of the city. The city has been very helpful and very supportive of us in this way. And of course, it came from our learners, the people that were coming from other countries, that there was a big need for this to be established. We did hire somebody in the middle of February. She started to work with clients in April, and basically Muna is an immigrant herself. She has been here for 12 years, but she did come from Syria via Iraq to our country, and really understands what it is to be a newcomer in this country. And since she started working with people, so I guess the last 8 months, we have served 96 individuals. And what we do is we provide them with a welcome, with information and referrals to the many other wonderful nonprofits, city organizations, etc., that we have within our community. We work in conjunction with the library and with the MP's office to do settlement services. It's been really eye-opening for us. Since this began, we have of course connected already prior to that with the African and the African Descendants Society. And we've also connected with Latino community that is coming together here in St. Albert as a result of the work that we've done together. Also a Filipino community, a Ukrainian/Russian community, and then an Arabic speaking community as well. And the communities that we're working to bring together now are our Asian community and Afghan community. So lots of work are being done in that particular area. So not only do we teach English language learners, but it is our mandate from our board and from the province that help support us financially, that we help newcomers settle within our community as well as teaching English. So we do things like teaching parenting in two cultures, and we have a men's group and a women's group, and both of those groups are educating newcomers to our community as well with the different issues that both men and women have. And it does provide some real community connection for the individuals that are working with us in these two different areas. And our latest program that we're working on is an entrepreneurial club for newcomers. This group will be working in conjunction with ourselves, with our library. We also are working with NABI in town here, the Northern Alberta Business Incubator, and with the Chamber of Commerce as well. And we just made a new connection on Thursday with a community that's doing some of this work in Edmonton that is going to help us because so many people that are new to the country are entrepreneurs at heart, and they were within family businesses, etc., and they really want to start their own businesses and know the Canadian way of doing that. The other thing that I'll just mention quickly, there's so much that we do, but one of our newest initiatives as a result of this work, we work very closely with our schools, our school divisions in town. They are members of our association. We're working in the schools with kids with their that are newcomers, if they have problems with English, and helping them with their homework, etc. And we're also providing interpreter and translation skills. We will be running classes for newcomers to town who have not understood our Canadian education system as yet, to understand what it is like to be educated in Canada, how to do parent and teacher interviews, etc. And we're reaching out to our schools to help us with that education. And finally, 70% of our population do not have kids in schools. So as much as our school boards will be educating kids, and that will be coming down to parents, and they'll want to know more, we want to reach out to those 70% in our community that want to learn about anti-racism, unconscious bias, and have some bystander education. So we are working with our groups in our winter semester, which starts in January. We are having community conversations in all three of those particular areas. These community conversations will be free. We feel that we will learn a lot from all of our newcomers in town by engaging in those conversations. And then of course, Helen and I and Jorge from the Latin community have a dream to have a cultural festival in St. Albert with food and music and dance and education every summer in St. Albert. And we are looking to grants to make that happen. So there's lots of things that we're doing. We're partnering with so many people in town. And if you have any questions of us, please let us know. Most of the work that we do for newcomers is absolutely free and supported by advanced education and by the city of St. Albert. The rest of the work that we do, we earn those monies by fundraising and by selling general interest courses. So I will leave it at that because we are short of time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now or reach out to me. I'll put my connections in the chat box, and I'll turn it back to you, Ahmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. I know if we give you 10 hours to talk about the further ed, we will not be done. So thank you for summarizing that. Okay, so is there any question from anyone around Cheryl's presentation?
Yes, there's a question in the chat that Sherry Emerson is asking, why is there not an interpreter for all nationalists through immigration populations.
So the reason I've not picked that question, Elaine, is is that for Cheryl or is it a general question? Because it came on before Cheryl talked. The reason I kept it was.
Yeah, I could probably answer that because we worked with the city and we do have interpreters for at least 11 different languages that are available to anybody free of charge, interpreters, and they do translation services as well. So they are available. You just need to email us. I'll put the helper email in the chat box as well. And we do. And if there's anyone that speaks more than one language, more than English, and they'd like to be part of this volunteer committee, we would love to have you aboard. Does that help, Sherry?
Question was for Mr. Ryan Komanuik.
So, thanks, Sherry. Sherry, just before he comes on, Ryan comes on, you know, we are redoing our website so that the whole website, you can choose a language and it will automatically move from English to whatever language you want. And we are encouraging all of our nonprofits, school boards, etc. in town to adopt a Google Translate or some similar situations so that their websites are all translated. We're working with doctors and dentists on the very same thing too. Then I'll turn it over to Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ryan, before you continue, I want to leave that, like I said, for the questions from the floor so that the Youth Hub can have some 5 minutes to talk about what programs they have available for our youth. And once they are done, the questions, because I do have a question, although Cheryl has talked about it, and it's probably going to be answered by the mayor. So when we get to that, we will now take questions that can be answered by any of our speakers so that we try to keep to time as much as we can. So I would call on the representative of the Youth Hub. Sorry, Cheryl, is that fine? Are you okay with that approach?
Oh, I'm very fine. Yeah, I'll just put it in the chat box. Ryan, too.
Okay. All right. So the representative for the Youth Hub, I think I saw you online. If you want to come on and make a presentation about, yes. Sorry, Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Ahmed. I have a short 30-minute presentation and then a 20-minute video that I like. Nah, I'm kidding. I had to say that. I could talk about this forever. I'm going to do my darndest to keep it real short. So what's the background to this? Well, the majority of mental health concerns emerge before the age of 24. Youth ages 12 to 24 are among the most underserved population in regards to mental health and addictions in Alberta, and underserved for a variety of reasons. Early intervention and access to services are among the most important factors in mental illness and addiction recovery. So it's because of this that the Alberta government launched the Youth Hubs initiative in 2017, and they tasked an organization called PolicyWise for Children and Families to research and provide structure around making this initiative happen. I'll give you the definition. Integrated youth hubs are youth-friendly, prevention-focused environments that integrate mental health and addiction services, peer support, social services, and primary health care. They provide resources to help youth manage their health and navigate pathways to specialized services. This is not a duplication of existing services. This is a safe space for youth to come to manage their own health, and all of the services in the community are brought in very much like a hub. If you think about a wheel and the hub in the middle and all of the spokes coming out of it, that's exactly the model. There are lots of incredible services already available in our community, and the intention of this is to provide youth-friendly links to those services, an environment that they drive, and they determine what they need and where they need it and how they need it. We had the first meeting of our Hubs initiative on September 7th. So this is not something that exists yet. This is something that is making some amazing progress. There are currently 11 hubs in the province in various stages of development. When we formally announced to the Canadian Mental Health Association Alberta, who are the lead organization for the Hubs initiative, when we let them know that we were interested in launching this, we had just missed the funding cycle for the hubs. So the next funding cycle is 2.5 years up the road. They're working with us to try and see if they can find funding for this. But I have to tell you, we have had meetings, as I say, since September 7th, and we already have an amazing support group that's forming. Helen, the Africans and African Descendants of St. Albert have been added to this list. And we have Amplify, BAM, the Youth Advisory Board, Bent Arrow, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the City of St. Albert, specifically community services and other supports, Family Resource Center, the Food Bank and Community Village, Interact Club of St. Albert, Jack.org, Kickstand, which is an online mental health support initiative, Natural Helpers Out Loud. The Primary Care Network is at the table in a major way. They're so excited about this. We have 3 local physicians who have expressed interest and who are aggressively participating. The Rotaract Club of St. Albert, the Rotary Club of St. Albert, SAFE, the Salvation Army, St. Albert Public Schools, St. Albert Catholic Schools, and we're just trying to figure out exactly who the best contact is at the Catholic schools, Teen Librarian, and we have a representative from the Canadian Mental Health Association who is at our planning table on a regular basis and helping us to move this forward. So we will be applying for grants to support this initiative, and we will be having our own community consultation, a public consultation on likely February 5th or 12th. We're looking at having a big space in the St. Albert Inn with breakout rooms. We want to make sure that we have participants there with lived experience, both youth and family members. We will have a discussion panel, we have breakout rooms, we will have a trained facilitator and an opportunity to participate online if we can't have people in the room, depending on which way the pandemic goes. So that's the 30,000 feet overview of the Youth Hub.
That's a very interesting one. If you could share the sites, maybe through the society and to go around, that's a very good initiative, and it's something we all must key into because the youths are very important, and this is when they are shaped. So the earlier they are captured, and we do have testing programs too in our society, and one of the programs that we do is it takes a village to train a child, and we've done like 2 already, very successful and well organized, and we look forward with collaborating with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I think the next thing is just to throw questions from the floor. I want to make it general. If there are specific for Mark, then Mark can answer that question. But I think, Constable Ryan, we will start with you with the question that was asked by Sherry Emerson. Why is there not an interpreter for all nationalists, so immigration populations? If you do want more explanation, we can call on Sherry to elaborate. Constable Ryan, are you still there? Yeah, I think you are there, but you are muted.
Ahmad, I sit on the St. Albert Policing Committee too, and if Ryan is having technical difficulties or has temporarily stepped away, I can make sure that we get that question back to the committee and look at that. I know that from my background, they do have access to services for general investigations as if they particularly have a investigative need, like let's say something's happening on the scene, they have a number they can call for translation services, but it's not general. So, but I'll get back to you and I apologize, I can't remember who asked the question. I'll get back to you guys in relation to that through Inspector Komiak.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, was I missing it? He's an inspector. Did I say constable?
Yeah, you said constable, but you know what? I mean, constable in the RCMP, inspector, you're just chief constable. How's
okay.
That?
You've gone through it, so you know you went through the ranks, so you know it more.
Yeah, we look alike. We look alike.
Okay.
Ahmed, I just ask Councillor Mackay, to that committee, you could mention that through Further Ed, the city and ourselves, we have these natural helpers that speak 11 different languages, and they're free if they need to reach out for interpreter services from them as well.
I will definitely do that. And I want to know how Elizabeth gets so young looking on her feed all of a sudden. Like, how does that happen? Like, look at how young she got all of a sudden. How do we do that?
Time travel backwards.
I know. I need that. Whatever you're feeding, I need that.
That's interesting. Okay, so is there any other question? I have a question that from me that I want to ask to the mayor. And I don't know if it's a question because I think Cheryl did mention it a bit, but I wanted to understand. I don't know who was saying it, that we have lots of Afghans and other people coming in. And I wanted to understand what is the city's plan for this much number of immigrants that would come in all at once? I mean, are you doing this through the Further Ed, or does the city has a plan to be able to help these people integrate and understand? Because from my perspective, one of the things that happens is that people don't understand how things work in their new environment. And I know that Further Ed is doing a lot of that. So that's my question for both the mayor and Councillor Ken.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm Cheryl. I'm sure we'll have something to add as well. So what happens when you have these refugees essentially from Afghanistan is the Canadian government brings them in. They go to designated landing sites. St. Albert is not a designated landing site. Edmonton is. And so what happens is they end up having support through the city of Edmonton. And then after a couple of years, when they feel that they're on their feet, is when they start to spread out. And quite often they actually end up in rural communities, so even further north of St. Albert. But, you know, they're like the city of Brooks, which is a small little city in southern Alberta, only 15,000 people, was designated an official landing site. Not exactly sure how they got that status, but it's something we could pursue, I'm sure, if there was an interest. But it's what happens when you live so close to a major city is they generally have more supports than we can provide. So I don't know if Cheryl or Ken have anything they want to add to that.
Ken, if I can, do you want to
Go ahead.
Ken?
No, go ahead, Cheryl, if you have. But I mean, also, I mean, we have the community, we have the food bank that has outreach workers in relation to accessing the some of our immigrant residents that are moving into our community. So I know they have an outreach worker, and Elizabeth probably could speak a little bit more on the food bank and what they're doing in relation to new immigrants.
I can mention to you that this week Muna met with someone in our community that landed here 10 days ago. So we are getting new immigrants, and they are finding their way to us very quickly through word of mouth and some of the work that we do on social media, and through the 100 or so volunteers that we have that work with us on in these programs. So we're gearing up. We have it's not just English language, but we have orientation programs, both for further education and for settling within the city of St. Albert, that we're gearing up the parenting into cultures classes that I mentioned, the work we're doing with the schools. So we feel we're really gearing up to be ready for those who are coming in. And we do know that we lag a little bit behind Edmonton. Sometimes when we see them is when they have family members here already and they want to be here where their supports are. And certainly a couple of our schools have programs that really attract newcomers. And so then they want to be in St. Albert and area because of the education that we provide in those programs. So yeah, between all of us, I think that we're really gearing up to be where we need to be to help as many people as possible. And then of course, the other thing is, we don't do all of that work by ourselves. We know St. Albert and the supports very, very well. So we make referrals to the food bank, the community village, if necessary, to SAFE, the Family Resource Center, to local doctors, because we're beginning to know who speaks the language, which medical centers, which doctors, which dentists are really able to help newcomers come in, etc. And we're working with local businesses as well, who have general entry jobs that can really help people that need income when they're first coming in. So we're doing a lot of that work. So I hope that helps. We work very closely with the city. We have a lot of people that are immigrating here from reserves as well, from up north. Individuals that want the kind of education that they can get in St. Albert and not what they can get on the reserves. So we're seeing more and more of that as well. We work closely with pound makers, and we have reached out to Paul Band, Enoch, and Alexander Reserve, and our local Métis community. We're working with all of them to make sure that they get the same kinds of supports here in St. Albert, and yeah, and we make the same kind of referrals where necessary.
Okay, thank you. That was so. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, to echo to Cheryl's point, that we all refer to each other's programs and services. And the City of St. Albert, with our community services program, we're so grateful for all of our partners, like Furthering Education and the Community Village for the support they do when we do have newcomers coming into the community. Similarly, the FCSS branch of community services, we have a position it's called a navigator. And her name is Kelsey, the woman that is in the role. And her job is to take an inquiry and help the person find the service that they need, to introduce them to the community, and to potentially even accompany them when they are entering into a new program or encountering or needing to access a new service. And part of having those positions is because we recognize more and more that we are having so many new people coming into our community, and we want to make sure that transitioning and finding everything that they need, whether it's mental health, social health, income support, education support, that it is as accessible as possible, and that there is as little red tape as possible in getting access to it.
Thank you. Joe, I did see your hands up. Did you want to say something before we move on?
I just threw it in the chat. One of the reasons Brooks was a designated landing site was because of the meat packing facilities and the ability to offer some employment to refugees and immigrants.
Okay. So is there any other question from anyone? We are getting to the end, or we're almost rounding up. And if
I
there's
think
any
Commander
specific-
Ryan is on the line. If he would.
Yes, I
like-
noticed. I did notice, Ellen. I'm just waiting to get any further question before. If there's no any other question, then Inspector Ryan can go ahead. There was a question while you were away, and it was about interpreters, and it says, why is there not an interpreter for all nationalist immigration populations? I was specifically directed at the RCMP.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry for missing. I had to step away for a couple minutes, but we do offer interpreter services. Unfortunately, we don't offer them at each detachment. So if there is some interpretation services required, as long as I was provided with that request in advance, I could make that arrangement through our provincial headquarters here in Edmonton. So I believe we have most every international language covered through our organization. So it's not a matter of if we can do it, there just has to be a little bit of advanced planning involved. So I'll leave that information with you here this evening.
Thank you. Sherry, does that answer your question?
Your department deals with police, is that right? The police?
Yes, if that question was directed at the RCMP at the police, yes, that we do provide those services. They're just not available at each individual detachment, such as St. Albert. I think we have 3 covered here in St. Albert. The rest I would have to put the request through our headquarters to seek out an interpreter outside of my department.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, we are at the end now, and Mayor, before you sign off, we will just need a quick remark from you, and we would be done. With the closing remark once you have done that.
I can always give a politician a mic, she'll talk forever, but I will, I'll go quick. I'll just say a thank you to the organizers for today. I hope to see more of these kind of conversations in our community in the near future. Maybe bringing in some of the other different groups, as we mentioned many times tonight, the new Latino group that has formed, and Cheryl mentioned many more. It would be amazing to have a conversation like this with all the diverse groups. And we were even talking on Friday about having maybe a little mini Heritage Day sometime in the summer with different cultures and foods and tastings. I thought that would be an amazing idea. So, and look forward to the next youth gathering. It does take a village to raise a child. And as you've heard tonight, that the youth are our future. They are a little bit at risk because of COVID, and they need our support. So I'm looking forward to your next one of those. So to all of those who participated, thank you for organizing. Thank you for your words. Thank you for loving St. Albert as much as we all do.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ellen, over to you. And on my side, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much on behalf of the board and members of the African and African Descendants Friendship Club of St. Albert. We say thank you for coming to this event. Thank you for engaging with us. Thank you for supporting all our events and activities. And we are so, so proud and happy to call St. Albert home. And we look forward to volunteering our time, partnering with all of you and everyone. And yes, if we have any need and challenges, we are so confident that we can always walk to any one of you, be it in the RCMP, member of parliament, MLA, Mayor Kati, our councillors, our school boards. We are so confident that you will listen to us, we'll be able to chat if and when a challenge comes up. And so we say thank you. And yes, look forward to Taste of Africa in 2022. We're going to come bigger and better too. So please be ready to help and support us. So thank you so much from our community. And thank you, Mr. Matt, for managing this event. And thank you, everyone.
Good
All
night.
right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ellen, we'll get lots of visitors and new residents if they believe that that's our background.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Oh, learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Have a great day. Wonderful, wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay, good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.